All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start a minute early. How about that? My name is Jad Al-Zain. I am also known as Virtual Jad for you guys who tweet and blog. I am a public sector specialist based out of Washington, D.C. I'm a cloud management specialist for the public sector. I've been about 5 years at VMware, bless you. I've been about 5 years at VMware, spent 11 years at a systems integrator, all been public sector my entire life. This will not be a public sector focused meeting, but that's kind of my background and what I do and how I contribute to VMware. And on my free time, I love to tweet and blog and get very technical in documentation and our presentations in general. Just wanted to give you a heads up. This is not a technical deep dive of any sort. This is talking about strategy and give you some things to think about as we go from virtualization and abstraction to extending it to the rest of the ecosystem and plugging in to tools like vCenter, vCloud Automation Center, vCAC, or vRealize. And then what that really means and some of the things to think about and the ecosystem integration and the tools involved and just to kind of get you strategically positioned to go from A to Z, right, from a cloud perspective. So hopefully we'll deliver on that message. And with that, send it to Omer.
So my name is Omer Kushmarov, also known as Elastic Skies. I've been around VMware for a couple of years, previously doing VMware inside of EMC, and prior to that, just managing one of the largest vSphere environments in the Middle East for 4 years. So with that, I think we're good to go.
So there's a disclaimer. It's the last day at VMworld. You guys have seen this. Basically, if we say anything in here that slipped into a last-minute slide edit and we didn't really mean it or shouldn't have been put in here, just ignore it. If we mention a version, if we mention anything like that that doesn't exist today, doesn't leave this room, right? And then, of course, there's always opportunity for things to change. So our agenda snapshot, we're going to spend a lot of time on what IT as a service means. I wish I had a more technical way to deliver that message, but it's actually a strategy first. We have to understand what our goals are, what our end results should be.
What needs to change.
What needs to change and how to address that change. And we're going to focus on those components. And of course, there'll be plenty of technology in there. Then we're going to spend the majority of the time on vCAC and the software ecosystem and the suites around vCAC. And what kind of capabilities and tools are available for you today and perhaps in the future to help get to those objectives. And then we'll spend the rest of the time talking about everything as a service. It's the X as a service engine, also known as the Advanced Service Designer within vCAC, which is just an incredible tool. And then we're going to go over some of the capabilities there. Hopefully we'll have some padding at the end. We're trying to have some padding at the end for Q&A and open discussions. But if you have a pressing need to yell out a question, please do. Let's just keep it casual. Okay? But if not, we could wait till the end.
Yeah. So basically, what we're coming to say here today is in order for the organization to streamline the business, what needs to happen is you need to streamline IT. Okay? Basically, when we do streamline IT, the organization doesn't have to think about what happens in the background, okay? So business processes just occur, and IT just seamlessly work in the background. So this is a nice quote I like to mention. So basically, we advance by doing things seamlessly, okay? So the IT problem, I don't have a clicker, so. Basically, what we have today is a simple process of a request. Someone requests something off of IT, whether it's a network, storage, compute, whatever. Then you have to wait for some approval type. Is it approved? Is it compliant? Do we know how to manage it? Do we know how to work around with it? And then you need to wait. You need to wait a lot, because today's processes are manual. And basically, this takes quite a bit of time. And after you wait, you have to also wait for a manual process to be done with a manual effort. And no one guarantees you that once something is approved, that thing will actually happen. So all of this processes take hours, days in the worst case scenario, and all of that just to get an infrastructure service, something that should be simple, something that should be transparent. We want to set up a new project, we just go ahead and get the IT for it in a matter of no time. We shouldn't wait around and deal with all that kind of complexity. So IT is basically changing. We need to change the way that we do IT, because up until now, we've consumed compute resources really quickly with the help of compute virtualization with vSphere. And now all the other components have to align to that. We need to virtualize networking. We need to virtualize storage in order to get the most out of IT, in order to get IT as a whole to be seamless. So basically, this is what we have to do. And we still need to keep some model of governance to give the IT personnel the ability just to govern all these IT services and to have control. Because once things are consumed, they need to be in control of IT, unless we're going to get to the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
So the 800-pound gorilla in public sector specifically, which is the world I live in day out, we have a major problem of folks saying, I need instant gratification. It's the guys and gals who know that they can go home and instantaneously request a workload from a catalog of providers, Amazon being one that you guys might know. It's instant gratification, right? Then you go to work in this massive enterprise, multi-billion-dollar enterprise, makes you wait 4 to 8 weeks or 6 weeks or 3 months or whatever just to get a Windows workload available. And just because this is VMworld, I assume that sometimes the folks in this room here are tasked with that challenge. So we have an issue where that our employees and our developers and this thing we call rogue IT, they pull out a corporate credit card, they go onto one of these websites, and Amazon, for example, AWS, and they swipe their card, and now they have a Windows machine in about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the workload may be. And this is the problem, but it's also a fun challenge to get in front of, because while we understand that this is a big no-no because they're circumventing a lot of the workflows and policies and governance in place on how I do internal enterprise IT, when we have our little secret discussions, the IT staff, and they say, well, it would be really cool if they can do something like that, and we understand why they're doing something like that. I would take a machine in 10 minutes any day over a machine in 3 months, right? I have a job to do, and I need to do it quick, and I'll build the machine, and I'll do my thing, and I'll destroy it. That is what IT as a service has to be a part of, and we have to take that beyond just IT. So getting in front of rogue IT means providing those services for our customers, internal or external, and saying, instead of going to AWS and causing a management nightmare for your workloads, not to mention security, since Mike's sitting right here in the front, we want to be able to deliver those services. And it's going to be a crawl first, then run, but we want to be able to say, okay, you're going to go for instant gratification. Let me give you instant gratification in IT. And then we want to go, you need a Windows box, and you need storage on demand, and you need a load balancer, and you need all these things. Let me give those things to you, and let me show you that I can do it. As the provider of software services or cloud provider within my organization, we are all tasked to be able to deliver those services as efficiently, as quickly, and with the same level of SLAs as your external competitors. Not really competitors, but your external competitors would do in an AWS type model. So this is the biggest problem, actually, and this is the one that kind of sticks in people's mind because it's happening. According to Gartner, 43% of all IT is called rogue IT. It happens behind the scenes.
So, so what happens a lot in organization I see and customers that I go visit is the IT transformation part is just not being something that's taken seriously. You have the everyday IT's manager who's probably like a C-level guy going, hey, I should build a cloud. Like, I heard the buzzword, like, yeah, this is what's up in the market. I should probably do that. Like, hey, go take some budget, take a few months' time, come back with cloud, right? So this is something we want to avoid because it doesn't really address all the operational issues that come along, with building a cloud or being IT, delivering IT as a service or being an IT broker. So a few of the bad ideas that I just wanted to exemplify. Phone.
It's a good song.
Yeah. Anyway, some of the bad ideas I want to exemplify is just this methodology of just expecting to wake up one day to a private cloud where everything's automatic and seamlessly working. That's not going to happen. You need to change people. You need to change processes. So also taking the things you do today and trying to automate the hell out of them, that won't work either. You should probably take some technological leaps if you're going to automate mainframes or your Unix boxes. You should probably do some technological leaps in order to accommodate for elastic resources. Also, you need to make sure your ground is solid, okay? Like the earthquake we had last week. So you need to make sure the IT ground for delivering services is rock solid. You cannot deliver something for consumption as a service if it breaks down often, because that way you're just going to make yourself a lot of headache. So
let's hope this works.
No, it will work. Actually, the computer, yeah. So if you do these things and just keep doing the same things you're doing today and just trying to automate them, you're going to end up with a Ruby Goldberg machine. And this is a couple of minutes about Ruby Goldberg. Hopefully, it'll play. Come on. Do another click thingy. Yeah, PCs. Why isn't this a virtual desktop? Okay, yeah, we got it. So, just a couple of minutes on that. Oh, lags. So we have this nice guy. He's trying to have his morning coffee. It's a video. So basically, this is a guy who's trying to really make his life simpler by automating a lot of stuff. And you'll see the end result of what all this should do. Yeah, sorry for the lag. The page is turned. Yeah. So that was the point for trying to do the same things we do today and just automating them.
All right.
So take it off.
So it's overcomplicating the process, and in my background, I spent 11 years as a system integrator. I won't name names, but it's on LinkedIn. We overcomplicated everything. Well, at least my group did, and it wasn't us choosing to overcomplicate. It was policies and red tape and all these different things that they forced us to go through, hurdles. And then you'd bring CISO in there or InfoSec, and they're saying, oh, none of this is going to work because there's some legacy requirement from a security perspective that this doesn't fly. So now we're starting over, starting from scratch. And really, we weren't trying to build a cloud, right? We're trying to achieve the characteristics of what is called a cloud, the pooling of infrastructure, the elasticity, the automation, the self-service, the control and governance, the operational aspects of those clouds, Those are the things that we really care about, and those are the things we're trying to establish. But because the word cloud was in there, now we have more people at the table, more people need to speak up, more people need to understand, have to jump in and feel like they need to speak up on why this will or will not break. It was an operational disaster. So when we start with the processes, we have to understand the processes don't just become automated. Processes have to be modernized. So this is probably pretty obvious, but it gets a lot more difficult when we're trying to do things in an old, very legacy way and just adding automation or integration into that process, right? We have to get everybody at the table, and we have to start talking about what a new modern infrastructure is going to look like, and then use VMware as a reference architecture and say, this is our end goal. This is what we're trying to achieve. What does that mean for me? Get everybody at the table, and we'll talk about it. So processes are one thing, overcomplicating like the video. It's taking a what should be very simple, meaning hands-off type of infrastructure, and adding a ton of red tape onto it. When you go to AWS, or when Rogue IT goes to AWS, or any cloud provider, even actually vCloud Air, it's instant gratification. That red tape, those processes, assuming you've moved your workloads in there, those processes are all behind the scenes. No longer do you have to worry about those. In a cloud infrastructure that's an on-prem IT as a service type of solution, we have to establish it in the same way. Now, the biggest problem by far is the people. We are the people, but there's other people that have to be involved. And these people are either stakeholders, these people are our security folks, which we love and very much care for. And then there's the customers, right? But then there are, again, more processes that have to be aligned with people. Now, we have specialties in people. We have the storage team and the network team and the compute and virtualization guys, right? And we have this new thing called the cloud team. We have security. All these folks need to be sitting at the same table. We will not be very successful if we cannot break those silos down between teams, because there is a fear that a network professional of the leading network provider sits at a table and we're talking NSX. They were like, wait a second, nobody said anything about NSX. And you're like, well, here's the solution requires deeply integrated network infrastructure. And the network professional says, absolutely not. That is not what we do. We have to break those silos. There should be no fear of losing your job by implementing a solution like this. In fact, it's something that everybody should embrace. Storage people the same way. Our network people, our security folks, it's the same thing. Let me show you what I can do. Let me show you how our processes and how our processes will be benefited and how our efficiency is going to skyrocket if we all just sit at the table, have a common end goal, and be able to break through not only the silos of my individual roles, but all of us together being able to deliver this for the enterprise, for the customer, and for each other. Then there's technology. We've got this down, right? This is why we're here. This is why you're here. The technology is going to play a big role in IT transformation. And who you choose to partner with and who you choose to go to market with is going to make or break the solution. The technology needs to be as simple and as available as possible. You need to have a massive support system behind it. Sometimes it's good to go open. Absolutely, we embrace open, but sometimes it's good to go to folks who can embrace it all, who can give you the open and give you the trusted infrastructure. Because we talked about that solid foundation. There is no such thing as a good enough hypervisor, a good enough platform for this journey into IT as a service. It has to be absolutely solid. And that is what VMware has built everything on, right? So the technology is going to play a big role. We're going to go up the stack, and where the technology plays that big role is obviously starting down at the very bottom with vSphere. The foundation of the software-defined data center is vSphere. It's what we are, what we're basically putting all our eggs into that basket. That didn't work out. So all infrastructure is virtually beyond compute. It's all delivered as a service that goes beyond infrastructure, that goes beyond applications and operating systems, right? And the policy-based automation is going to make or break the success from a policy perspective and governance perspective. So as I do this journey, I'm going to virtualize more, and I'm going to virtualize not just vertically, but horizontally. I'm going to plug into infrastructure that might not typically be considered a target for virtualization. storage, networks, et cetera. Deliver it as a service through catalog-based services. Apply a policy on there so that only very specific people who are very specifically allowed to come in here and request a very specific service can do what they need to do on a day 1 or a day 2 operation. And where vCAC fits into all of this, being the 4th day, I probably don't have to introduce vCAC to you. And Omer and I actually write a whole lot and blog a whole lot about vCAC. Where vCAC is going to sit into this is what I call the top of rack, or top of stack, sorry. Top of stack of the cloud solution. If we kind of lay it all out, starting from the very bottom, the foundation, we've got our physical abstraction, and we've got data stores, distributed virtual switches, and resource pools. To be a cloud provider, we have to further abstract that, and we have to deliver capacities, pools of capacity, in this concept called a virtual data center. And that's where the cloud fabric is going to come inside. vCAC is going to provide you that cloud fabric to do that. And beyond that, we have our cloud operations, our networking and security. We're not going to talk so much about that, other than know it's very integrated and very hybrid. And at the very top is Cloud Automation Center. But you also notice these wonderful spinning gears on the left and right. vCenter Orchestrator is your best friend in this journey. vCenter Orchestrator is going to be there's a lot of delays. vCenter Orchestrator is going to be the core engine that does all things integration, orchestration, and automation beyond just the VMware stack. Okay? If we don't have a native integration point, this is where this guy's going to play a role. And it's going to be a scale-out type of architecture, so I'm going to automate and integrate into local tools and remote tools and hybrid tools. So when we put this all together, vCAC is going to sit up top. Well, it's going to sit in the middle for sure with the cloud fabric. But the UI that sits up top that you interface with from an admin perspective and from a user perspective, and all my tenants and consumers all interface with this one UI. And they go there for all things infrastructure as a service, all your typical operating systems. Every single OS we support can be delivered through vCAC.
Or even IT as a service.
There's what? How many of them? 500 operating systems, something like that?
Yes, so.
Mike should know. OSs we support,
But the point is that once you have everything abstracted, you could service it in one portal called vCAC, and you could do IT as a service as a whole. We have a screenshot of some services depicting that.
Yep. So infrastructure as a service, platform services, going beyond just the template and being able to deliver entire platforms as a service in a blueprinting model, right? Deploy those and provision them to a vCAC type interface, giving you that one-stop shop. Of course, desktop as a service, whether it's Zen Desktop or Horizon View, it's desktop as a service. You want a user to come in there and be able to request a Windows 2008 R2 machine and a Windows 7 desktop. Why not? We want to be able to consolidate all those in a service type of offering. And then finally, our favorite topic is X as a service. Everything else as a service. And that's a very powerful statement. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. But it's anything I can do in vCenter Orchestrator, I can deliver in my catalog as a service. So, yeah, I'm going to. Yeah. So from a governance perspective, it all sounds really great. When we talk about governance, we need things like visibility into the operational or the life cycle of this thing I just provisioned, whether it's a virtual machine or a load balancer or a VLAN or storage, whatever it is. Governance means it is very much allowed to be doing what it's doing, being requested in the way it was requested, and life-cycled in the way it's being life-cycled. So governance, from an approval perspective, first thing we're going to do is, once that request comes in, first we're going to entitle the service catalogs, right? So already when we've gone in and requesting a service, somebody's already specifically said, this user is allowed to select this service, right? So once we get beyond that, the request is made, and then we have an approval process. And the governance engine is designed to say, let me just make sure that you're allowed to do this at this time, in this infrastructure, and by who you are. Sometimes I have a governance model which I'm allowing everybody the ability to come in here and request any service they want, except for that one guy I just do not trust. And I could have a trigger saying, if that one guy requests this machine on a Monday, I want governance, and I want 30 people to approve it, right? And I can do anything in between. And I can make that so I'm going private and public and the whole hybrid, and regardless of the infrastructure, and regardless of the service itself. I'm going to also do that for actions. we have the day one, which is the request itself, and then we have what's called day two operations, which is what do I do to this service after it's been provisioned, the lifecycle component, right? If it's out there for 90 days, I have to do stuff to it for 90 days. If it's out there for 5 years, there's things that I have to do operationally to that virtual machine or to that service.
So I can actually give an example about a day two that requires entitlements or approval. So I've had a use case where we wanted to give the users the possibility to just choose DR for a specific machine, okay? So a user has all of his machines in the items tab, and he right-clicks DR this machine. And basically what this does is it will generate an orchestrated workflow to put the machine inside of SRM, put it in a protection group, whatnot. But the IT guys were like, hey, but we don't want like our guys, our devs people, just going around pulling off protection groups in SRM. So we were like, okay, so just approve it. And if you're not approving it, it's not going to happen. So
exactly.
This is what governance is about. This is why it's so important in the process. You could give anyone any service as long as IT has a hold on it.
So as far as the IT services themselves, we can go global, very broad type of governance. We can go very
granular,
yeah. Right? Very specific. So I need to be able to power a machine on, but not power it off. If somebody wants to power a machine off, somebody has to approve that. In my world, in public sector, that policy is actually used all the time. And destroy a machine, you're never allowed to destroy a machine in public sector. So, good idea. Governance is going to be your best friend, and it's going to actually help you be successful in the transformation to IT as a service, because you can tell all those naysayers, but let me show you what you can learn from this infrastructure. You have more visibility than you've ever had before, and we're just still at the top level. So, yeah, vCloud Automation Center is designed to be extensible. Basically, this tool integrates with a lot of capabilities. It could talk to VCO as a main orchestration engine. VCO could help us achieve a lot of orchestration with third parties and also with everything that's vSphere, okay? Also, we have REST APIs with vCloud Automation Center. So if you have any other third-party system that needs to provision VMs on some basis, you could just call vCAC, request a machine. That's basically enabling consumption of infrastructure as a service or anything else with third-party tools, okay? You could just call vCAC and still have your entire governance model intact. Also, it enables policy-based management. If we have users that are coming from specific business groups, specific tenants, we could do all sorts of workflows related to that. If this user is in the dev group, I don't want him to see this kind of VM. I don't want him to be able to choose as many CPUs as the IT guy. IT guy should probably be able to have unlimited choice. And mainly, this is what it's all about. Taking your vCAC instance, extending it to your existing data center, not having to rip and replace whatever current investment you have, is just integrate into it and work it to your advantage with vCloud Automation Center. So, and the main star of the show, not me nor Jad, VCO. So VCO is a Java-based technology for workflows. Basically, what we have is a main workflow engine. It's also accessible via REST APIs. You could build any type of workflow for, we'll show a list of plugins soon. But basically, what we can do is make decisions, throw exceptions, throw user decisions. Actually, there's a nice feature with vCAC that enables you to, in the middle of a VCO workflow, just to go to the administrator and ask him a question. Do you want it to be this way or that way? And he could choose. He could get the VCO workflow just straight off the UI for vCAC, just to make a decision on the spot. So it integrates really well with vCAC. The target users are automation specialists or the kind of people that will write a workflow. You might not have these people today as an official role, but you should probably think about changing people, changing processes, and creating new roles. So we're having a look at the list of available plugins for VCO. Everything's VMware makes is pretty much native.
We also have a lot of partner applications like F5 networks. We have EMC Viper to provision LUNs and storage as a service. We have NetApp. We have Cisco UCS Manager if you want to provision servers. And also, we also take care of standard protocols like REST, like SOAP. So if you have an existing system that you want to integrate into, but it doesn't have any special type of API, just a generic REST API, SOAP API, we could integrate into that as well. So actually, I've done a use case where IPAM. I had a customer who had an internal system for IPAM. So no problem. We just talked with SOAP and got an IP for every new machine from the existing system that they have to run IPAM. So that's a big part on VCO to be able to integrate pretty much into anything. And also something that's kind of new and I'm not sure everyone's aware is the dynamic types plugin. So what the dynamic type plugin enables us to do is basically take these REST and SOAP APIs and just create specific inventory objects inside of VCO. What that in turn helps us is being able to manage the lifecycle of pretty much anything that you have integrated with VCO. If you have an inventory object for it, you could now manage the lifecycle of it in vCAC. So let's say you're using NSX and you're provisioning a network, okay? And with the dynamic types plugin, you could just call the REST API, make an inventory object off of that network, and now you have in your item list just network 1, network 2, you've provisioned it, you can do day 2 ops on it, delete the network, associate a different VLAN with the network. So really, it opens up a lot of new X as a service possibilities. Just grab the dynamic types plugin, start messing around with REST and SOAP APIs and creating new inventory objects that that does not exist out of the box in VCO. And then you can enable yourself to pull off other consumption of X as a service.
So for anybody who's played with vCenter or vCAC 6.x, there's a lot of great things we can do in the Advanced Service Designer, and we can do a lot of custom services, and it's the beginning of X as a service, or what was the beginning of X as a service. But when we use the Advanced Service Designer and we use the integration components and extensibility of VCO, the resulting object was never considered a first-class citizen, right? It was, you'd have to create more custom services, and as powerful as that capability was, obviously there was always opportunity to improve it, and this is going to be one step to drastically improve that capability. So whether I'm provisioning a user for Active Directory as a service, or a desktop through DAS, or you know, a network or a VIP or whatever it is, I can now treat that machine or that object as a first-class citizen or a first-class object, which is actually a big deal for us especially. You know, we geek out about it, but it's you know, if you're not aware, just take a look at that. There's been a couple of blog posts on it. It's a great new feature coming out.
So we've been talking about ITaaS, obviously, and here are some of the examples you can achieve just by installing some of the plugins I've shown you on the list before. We could do NSX or VCNS, networking as a service, create security groups. You could do ITSM. Let's say you have some VMs and now you want to open a ticket. You could just day 2 open a ticket, and someone will take care of the VM for you. Let's say it has performance issues or whatnot. Also storage, Viper, EMC, and NetApp WFA just create LUNs. So if you want to tackle some processes between IT personnel and storage group, or maybe your DBAs are requiring lots of storage from the storage team, you could just have that as a service, and then governed by IT, IT can decide if the DBAs can have the LUN or can't have the LUN, or process whatever approval you want on it.
So I like to have a little bit of fun with this, and there's a lot of practical application. In fact, we have workshops, I'm based out of DC, we have workshops in DC all the time where we're talking about use cases for the Advanced Service Designer and vCAC's extensibility. And considering my customer base, we come up with very interesting use cases. But then we also like to have some fun and go into demos and you know, showing this technology with the art of the possible in mind. And we talk about, look at what you can do, but let's start down here, right? For example, we do prank call as a service. There are a lot of VoIP solutions out there that have APIs, publicly available APIs. You get a license to them. And then you could use an API script or workflow to basically automate a digital voice calling a phone number and speaking a sentence or a paragraph or a whole story. So you tie that into a VCO workflow, deliver it through vCAC, and now we have a service in our catalog that's called Prank Call. You click on that, and as a service, you can govern it and do whatever you want. Some random guy or gal gets a phone call from vCAC. It's pretty incredible. But it's fun. That's not practical. But there are other things, like I want to deploy a multi-machine blueprint. We're talking about NSX and what we're doing from the NSBU here at VMware, and it's a lot of really great things happening, but who here is an NSX customer? Okay, we all need to be, one, but number two, the understanding is you have existing mature infrastructure. So when you go down the NSX path, we're going to integrate there, but until you do that, we have to integrate here. So I don't want to force NSX down your throat today just so you can go out and get the best out of vCAC. So we're going to use a lot of these use cases to, for example, create a multi-machine blueprint and then automatically reach out to my info blocks for IP address management and my F5 to create a VIB so I can do a load balancer, to my network gear so I can build a VLAN and provision new network resources while a machine's in flight, for example. A machine is just one example. So it goes beyond just, this is pretty cool, let me make it a service. It goes beyond the entire life cycle and the entire provisioning process of a service or a machine.
Or basically any item.
Any item.
So just a couple of things to consider, some best practices, if you will. Basically, if you're gonna write VCO workflows, I recommend just writing the pieces the smallest you can. What this means is just break down simple operations into little VCO cubes. What that helps us achieve is basically, also you can reuse existing workflows. So if you wrote a specific piece that does something, you can reuse it easily later without smashing your head into the laptop. But also, VCO is built upon the fact that if it goes down, it has the entire workflow state saved in the database. So if you ever go down in the middle of a workflow and you have this model of building workflows with all the small pieces, then it could go up and then continue seamlessly from the same spot it left off. If you're going to do one scriptable task that's going to have a lot of JavaScript and do a lot of stuff, and then VCO goes down, when it goes up, you can't really know where you left off and what you need to continue. So this is a really good idea to do around VCO workflows. Also with vCAC, ASD is an engine that works specifically to get you guys to build, to help you build services that are governed and basically build policies around these services. So if you build an ASD service, you can then inject specific information about the user inside the workflow and then decide which policy do you want to activate according to that information. So if I requested a service and I'm not, I don't have any special permissions, or my organization's not, I don't know, specifically allowed to create networks, I could just fail it right away, or I could just notify the user that the service is done, or basically you have all the user information. So you could build a policy around where is this user coming from, what's the policy that's attached to it. So this is also a good idea. And for day 2, you'll get the resource ID. So if you're working on a VM, you'll know which VM you're working on. If you're working on some SaaS item like network or F5 load balancer, you just get the ID into the VCO workflow, and then you could easily decide what to do with it and whatever operation you want to do on it.
And some more practical advice, and now this is operational stuff. So we talked about the art of the possible, and there's going to be a lot of really neat things we can do with this. And once you see the plugins, and if you've got a REST or SOAP API, and leverage what's out there, like if you've ever seen the IFTTT, if this then that, that is an incredible place to really extend your cloud. For example, when my Windows machine gets provisioned, tweet something about it, or post something on Facebook, or call my house, right? IFTT.com is an incredible, IFTTT.com, an incredible resource. But anyway, that's art of the possible stuff. in the real world, we have these conversations of, oh, we can do all these great things, but we have to start somewhere. Give me a top 5, top 10 list of things and services that you as an enterprise are trying to deliver, or as an agency or an organization. Let's map those out, and let's figure out what the workflow behind that looks like, and then we'll deliver that as a service, right? So we can talk about all this really great technology, and I want to spend a lot more time on talking about the great technology, but there's also things to consider from an operational perspective, which was the point of this meeting.
Yeah, so this is just like a tiny IT as a service dashboard we've built just for demo purposes. Basically, it depicts everything that you saw on the list there with the plugins. So we have networking as a service, utilizing F5 and VCNS. This was prior to NSX. Also, we have, I think, next is infrastructure as a service. Click it.
That's stuck.
Oh, never mind. So we have network as a service, we have infrastructure as a service, the basic stuff, Red Hat VMs, Debian. Also consider putting some middleware like SQL Server, web services. That's usually helpful for people just to have not a clean Windows box, just having some middleware on top of that. We have also desktop as a service, so you might want to give your desktops to the user. A new guy comes to the organization. You don't want him to go to IT and start requesting a desktop or whatever. You have VDI. You want to leverage that.
Sorry, my clicker's messed
That's
up.
okay.
We just accelerated this thing.
Yeah, so anyway, so you want to leverage vCAC. He could just pop up a generic portal with some generic user everyone is using, and then request a desktop if he's a developer or just a common user. So in summary.
So in summary, let's find our problems and solve real problems before we solve problems that don't exist, okay? We don't want to be a rip and replace proposition. We don't want you to say, okay, we got to bring VMware in here, but that means this massive investment here has to go bye-bye. Never. I've never had that conversation. Let's integrate first, orchestrate that workload or that infrastructure, and then perhaps there's an opportunity to augment and save some money later, perhaps. But let's figure out exactly what our objectives are, map them out, and then we'll talk to, whichever technology you go with. Sit down and figure out, okay, how these align. How am I going to take my legacy processes and make them modern so before they can be applied into this IT as a service thing? So we got to go through all these things. And then what about the actual infrastructure? Does it make a lot of sense to automatically provision LUNs and bring them into the environment on demand? Yeah, perhaps. In some environments, absolutely. We've got this stuff running in the back of Humvees all over the world. It's pretty cool what we can do. I think we killed Osama bin Laden from a vCAC workflow. So I'm just saying, you heard it here. But
ask yourself the hard questions. Come to the organization and just start asking hard questions. Why are we doing the things we're doing today? How can we change them? What do we want to automate and why? Is it flexible? Is it manageable? So,
and who are you selling to? Who's the customer? Who's the stakeholder? Who's the end
user for the service? Yeah.
The end user, but also the stakeholder, and who's going to fund this project and show them what you can do for them, but also who's going to consume and use this project. And I guarantee, I had a session yesterday with a federal customer of mine. We were up on stage and we were talking about what we did to transform the DCMA, which is, all defense contracts globally go through this organization, and we are, highlighting or spotlighting what they've been able to do in vCAC from a global provisioning perspective. So a lot of really great things have been able to be done there, and now he's got a queue of people waiting to get their workloads and their services globally across 18 sites into that. Once you show them the art of the possible, then you show them what we can actually do and how quickly we can do it, it's going to be a game changer. But all these different pieces have to play a role in making this successful. And with that, we got some time for Q&A or discussion. We could try to answer anything. Some of it will be correct. And then, of course, Omer and I love to blog and tweet and do all kinds of stuff about this. So we've got a lot of resources on our blogs. There's a POC guide out there on our blogs and some really great extensibility examples that Omer does as well. And then...
with that, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
So, any questions?
Questions?
Yeah.
One of the things that you were talking about initially when you first opened up is how fast it is for our end users to go out there. And I think one of the key points you made in there is they
Yep.
Fill out the surveys, by the way. Sorry.
Can we get our end users to swipe the IT budget like that?
Absolutely.
We can do a whole lot more.
No, I agree.
As much as the automation, because I think, like in our company, we can automate and build up the server just as fast.
Yep.
But we can't get them to approve a budget as fast as they can swipe.
Absolutely, but when they swipe that credit card, it's going to be something that's exposed at the end of the month or end of the quarter, and it's coming out of the same bucket at the end of the day, right? But well, so yeah, so the rogue IT we were talking about is I pull out my VMware credit card and I'm building, stuff externally, which I never would. But I totally understand your challenge. And the comment for anybody who was interested was the problem with the rogue IT statement was that when a user takes a credit card and goes to an AWS and gets a service immediately in that instant gratification, that's coming out of the user's pocket or whatever that credit card's tied to. If internal IT systems had that capability, where the developer or the administrator was able to charge a corporate credit card and have a lot of visibility into that budget, meaning we don't go through the budget constraints and the budget red tape, maybe it would be a better story, but we can do that. We can actually I'm speaking this, and we could actually come close to doing that once we start talking about the vCloud business stuff and ITBM and some of these other tools. A lot of that we're doing from a visibility perspective, not quite swiping credit cards, we're swiping CAC cards, the smart cards. But yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Can I have the clicker?
You want the clicker?
Yeah, I just want them to fill the survey. Yeah,
There we
that's
go.
it.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure whether this is the right forum to ask this question or not. I'm asking this technical question on behalf of my team.
Go for it.
Back of the office.
We're much more comfortable in a technical audience.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to do, we are trying to implement a VCO workflow, which is getting invoked from resource action of a vCenter VM from VCAC. Now, we are able to create and assign the workflow in vCAC 6.4 from the advanced services. But do you know, do we have the same services available in 5.2? And if not, what is the workaround?
We do have that in 5.2.
So in 5.2, or 5.1 and 5.2, we have vCenter Orchestrator as an endpoint, okay? And this is a conversation to have offline.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question, I can't repeat that question.
Yeah.
It's a whole paragraph. But we should have this conversation offline, and we'll make it work for you. But 5.1, 5.2, we used vCenter Orchestrator as an endpoint, so we can consume it or use it or invoke workflows while a machine's in flight through external calls, right? And we also had this thing called the Design Center. In 6.x, 6.0 and 6.1, or future 6x, we have a lot more integration in the vCenter Orchestrator. We have two-way conversations. It's a first-class citizen within the UI of vCenter Orchestrator, of vCAC. So your workaround is to get to 5.2, update 3, and then do an upgrade to the next version, which is going to let you upgrade directly without having to rebuild a lot of that stuff.
For you. I have a.
But we are developing plugins which has to be compatible with 6.x as well as backward compatible with 5.2.
You can do that in 5.2. You just.
Solution for all possible.
Yeah.
You can do the same with 5.2. Just put a menu item there for that VM, but you won't be able to put any inputs. The user won't have. Yeah. So if you're looking for plugin compatibility, it has nothing to do with
So
vCAC.
vCenter
Like, VCO
Orchestrator
is
is
on
going
its
to
own.
be independent of vCAC.
Yeah,
We're
so-
just invoking and calling, right?
Exactly.
But there are some caveats there that we want to talk about. Maybe we should have a
Other
an
questions?
after conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the ability to use dynamic data types
Yeah.
within VK.
Mm-hmm.
When will those be exposed as manageable objects within the site?
So okay, the question was when will dynamic inventory object will be exposable through vCAC? So in fact, they're exposable today. Dynamic types plugin is not something that's coming. It's already inside VCO 5.5.1. So you could leverage that. I do know that at the moment it's in beta state. Okay, so you might have some technical caveats. But next version is gonna be considered RTM, as far as I know.
The next vCAC release.
Yeah.
Is the answer to your question.
So, but it's not that far. So.
Yeah.
And
So right now, Christoph,
vCOteam.info.
vCOteam.info is going to be a good start.
I'm gonna start releasing stuff as well.
Yep.
Yeah, VCO community is a great spot as well. Yeah.
Yes,
Sure.
sir.
Do you have any improvement pipeline for multi-forest feature in CAC?
So Active Directory? Yeah, so the question
Repeat it,
is, can vCAC or vCO? Okay,
Okay.
so the question is, can we go multi-forest Active Directory
VCO and
for
VCAC.
VCO and vCAC?
So basically, in vCAC, I think you can at the moment with the native Active Directory integration. If you put the SSO plug, the identity VA, if you join it to the Active Directory domain, it could actually search forests. I had a customer where we just put like 2 identity sources, one at the top level of the forest and one at the bottom. So people from the top level could be able to log in, and people from the bottom could do that as well. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve. Like if you're talking about logging in, or
Not logging in actually.
so you're talking about VCO. So I
VCO integration with
okay. So I know VCO's AD plugin is being revamped.
Yeah.
the plugin is only one area.
Yeah. Okay.
That's been the case since the very beginning of that.
It's been the case. So you can just spin up a couple of VCO instances right now because there's no workaround apart from that. But I know the Active Directory plugin is being revamped, so it's just a matter of time.
It should be, and those types of things, they get released outside of the management and infrastructure release cycles.
Yeah, they have their own release cycles.
Multiple VCO instances separately.
Yeah.
Is it okay to call from one portal, VCO portal? or-
Yeah, you could configure you can configure an ASD VCO for each tenant.
So it's per
if
tenant
that's
in
the
vCAC.
case, Yeah.
So
Got the extensibility package for each and every VCO and then.
yes, that would, to keep it in swim lanes, yes. So the question was, do we have the ability to have multiple vCenter orchestrators called from vCAC? And the way we do that today is per tenant. We can do it globally, per system, or per tenant. And to keep the swim lanes, you'd have to have the extensibility happening per tenant as well.
And if you need to do it in an IaaS workflow, like you're creating a machine, you want to put it in the domain, and you have several domains, so you could just pick inside a workflow, you could just you could put a custom property on the business group that says, okay, this guy's from this domain or whatever, so choose this orchestrator, because this orchestrator has the plugin configured to this guy's domain. So I did that at a customer site, like they had
it's
multiple
a hack,
domains.
it's getting much better.
Yeah.
And
Yes, sir.
the Advanced Service Designer, is that just the capability that allows vCAC to talk to VCO?
Yeah, Advanced Service Designer is the...
It's the entire engine, actually.
It's the engine within that was shipped with vCAC 6. It was added a net new technology in vCAC 6. And it is the front-end UI to the back-end orchestration. But it is the engine where all the magic happens. And it's available right there. You have to be a service architect. You have to have that service architect role. And then the advanced tab will show up for you, and you can create custom day 1, day 2 operations. And you'll see your VCO instance brought right into the UI, and you could invoke any one of those workflows, either as a service or a day 2 operation.
Yeah. Other.
Yes, sir.
We already have a service catalog and a workflow engine. How would we try to incorporate vCAC into our operations?
So,
We just skip Orchestrator and continue to use our current workflow.
so no.
Repeat the
Why would you
question.
do that?
Repeat
so
the question.
So I'm an existing customer. I already have an orchestration engine and a front-end service catalog. How do I integrate into this world? It depends. Is it HP? Is it CA? Is it?
It depends if you're trying to. Are you
Okay.
trying to just invoke it in the background? Because then
Words can be either rip and replace our current, or are we trying to
you can call VCC in northbound.
see, but we also don't want to have 2 different service catalogs.
Right, so vCenter Orchestrator is going to be the integration point, right? Because we're going to write to CA, we're going to write to vCAC. We're going to have the native APIs into that. So that we'll get the plugin. I believe that we have a CA plugin. And basically, we're passing objects around and saying, hey, I just did this. Why don't you update the catalog? We do this with a lot of like ServiceNows of the world, right? When it comes time to renew your licenses, maybe you make a business decision on which direction you want to go, and then we kind of help you get there. But it's not a rip and replace. Sometimes it makes sense to rip and replace. In fact, I do that all the time because it's actually cheaper in the long term, if you look at 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. But that's not what our messaging is. This is not a rip and replace. Let's make it integrated first, work with professional services, we'll make it happen. It won't be an out-of-the-box capability for sure, but we can absolutely make it happen.
Yeah, but you can call vCAC in northbound APIs from any portal you might have at the moment. So.
And the whole API story at VMware is also drastically changing, right? We're doing a lot of really great work around the APIs, our native APIs, as well as embracing OpenStack type APIs.
Other questions?
In extension to that question, I have one.
Go for it.
We have VCO already in place, but is there any way that we can call during one server build or one process? Can we call can we invoke any other orchestrator using the same process?
Sure, with REST APIs. Yeah.
Repeat the question. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the question was, can we invoke other orchestrators from within VCO? And the answer is yes, if it talks with REST APIs, SOAP APIs. I know some work has been done at a customer of mine, just invoking HPOOO thing, just with REST. So if it has like a standard protocol to talk with, yeah, we can invoke anything.
I've seen workflows that do nothing but configure other vCenter orchestrators.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like the
I
multi-node
mean,
plugin.
But you got one, like we have a Microsoft environment as well as VMware.
If the Microsoft has APIs, we can invoke them. That's not a non-issue.
So we're looking at REST SOAP, we're looking at our open standards, but we're also looking for native integration. So that list shows all your native plugins, and we're going to be doubling that very soon over time, but that's a major focus for us. And then you've got your big APIs, your big open protocols, that things like SOAP, REST, as well as SNMP, SMTP, I've got a customer who invokes or kicks off provisioning processes through an email. They send an inbox an email, and it gets processed, and they create a machine. So, and then we can go external and really expand on that. Sky's the limit. Do you have a question, sir? Oh.
Okay.
All right.
I think we're pretty much done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Fill out the survey, please. Please fill out the survey. Thanks.